With regard to the European Union's support to Arab transitions in the past 6 months, I think not much has changed. There has been, of course, some progress of implementation on the technical levels, but the EU in general is currently politically stuck. They are much absorbed by internal matters, by how to resolve the crisis and all the matters pertaining to it. So the big policy revolution towards the Arab world hasn't happened in the aftermath of the 2011 revolutions, and it doesn't look at the moment as if it's going to happen. So progress on the technical level, but they remain politically stuck. Their main added value would be to really support the economic development of these countries, but these have, if anything, got worse over the last year. So there it is very important that the EU supports a kind of not only growth, but a kind of qualitative kind of growth that trickles down to the population, which is not necessarily currently the case. And of course in Syria the situation has become much worse, with 80,000 deaths and counting, and the EU's role there is very limited, and of course the neighborhood approach and all these sort of formal EU policies are of no use in that country. So if anything, the challenges for the EU have increased, but the responses have not. The challenges ahead are, well, first and foremost, finding a solution together with the international community for the Syria crisis. As I said, 80,000 deaths should be reason enough. Unfortunately, the EU's role is very limited there. Now the arms embargo has run out, which poses the question of for EU member states and also for other actors, international actors, on whether or not to provide weapons to the rebels. This is currently being controversially discussed and may make a big difference, but opinions vary as to whether it would make a positive or a negative difference. But as I said, the EU has a very, very limited role there and should basically support the US in acting. And with regard to the other countries, I mean, the main failure, the main challenge for the EU in its response to the transitions is that they haven't really found any response to how to dealing with countries that are either too strategically important or too rich to care for their opinion. So this is something that current EU policy frameworks do not address. You can see that in the Gulf there is no idea really on how to reconcile values and economic interests in the EU's relations to the Gulf, and the same, for example, goes in many instances with regard to policies towards North African countries, how to prevent these transitions from backtracking while at the same time retaining also EU interests. And so far the big challenge for the EU is to find a response to these questions.